The final piece of understanding ngFor is to look at this ng template approach, where we can have a slightly finer level of control. To demonstrate, we can add an ng template. We'll close this off. Now, because it's an ng template, that means the content of the template needs to then contain our element. So to make these equal to each other, we need to then put the donut card inside of our ng template, which means that the ngFor needs to come off of the donut card. If we fix our indentation, we end up with something that looks like this. What I'll do is for now just create a couple of spaces just so this is a bit easier to see. So above we have our ng container, we have our donut card with our ngFor bound to it. So this asterisk is essentially Sugar syntax for exactly this. So to add our ngFor, we essentially need to do something like this and declare ngFor. The way that we specify our of statement in the way that we are doing here, we need to then supply ngFor of. And you can see that this is then expecting a property. So the value we can pass in is donuts. But there is one problem. You can see that we have this red underline telling us that this variable doesn't exist. So the way that we can create this is the same way that we're doing here. So we can say let dash donut, and this then creates the variable automatically for us because it doesn't exist. So Angular is then going to assign underneath in our ngFor of. So then if we hit save, we're going to see the exact same items then being rendered out. Similarly, we have the ability to access and create new variables. So in the previous lesson, we talked to our index variable and then we renamed it to I. So this will do exactly the same thing. So here I can print out the I, we can then hit save and you see 0, 1, 2. So you can see the difference here. Because our ng template is in fact creating these variables, we can use them anywhere inside the template. If we were to use them on our donut card, if we say index as I, and then outside of the donut card try and access this I, it's going to just throw an error because it doesn't exist. So if you need to do something like this and have a more finer grain control over your templates, then by all means use this ng template. Now the reason that I am showing you these is not to say that you should go ahead and start using these. It's purely to deconstruct what Angular is doing for us under the hood. So when we are spelling out asterisk ngFor and providing this syntax, Angular is actually translating it into this. So just keep that in mind. Anytime we write this syntax, this is really what's happening, which is exactly why I'm taking you through this process, so you have the deeper knowledge of how things are working under the hood. And it also then doesn't surprise you when you start jumping into the dev tools and we start to see debugging statements like our ng reflect bindings, ngFor of, because we know what Angular is doing behind the scenes to then generate our DOM and our components for us. I've also mentioned in previous lessons that ng template doesn't actually do anything if we don't supply any way of rendering that template. For example, if we say hello world and then go and remove our ngFor declarations, we can then hit save and nothing actually gets rendered. That's because a template doesn't exist. You can see it is never displayed directly. So Angular is hiding this, it's keeping it in memory for whenever we want to then go ahead and use it. When we bring back our ngFor behind the scenes, Angular is then taking a copy of this template and it's working out when it needs to use it, and then it will go ahead and print it out for us. So that is the complete picture on ngFor. We've looked at this asterisk syntax, which I would encourage you to use as it's a nice one-line syntax, and you can see that our ng container ngIf, donut card with the ngFor, and our property binding to pass each individual item down into the component is super clean. It's a couple of lines of code, and we achieve so much with it, especially with our performance enhancing track by statement.